Welcome to PCS with Military.com. I'm your host, Amy Bouchatz, Military.com's executive editor. On this podcast, we talk with experts and insiders about everything you need to know to make this military move season your best yet. Now, let's get this PCS started. Military moves force us to be scrappy, really scrappy. Military spouses and family members are often left dealing with the details of moving a large household and all of the nuts and bolts of family schedules, doctors, school, daycare, whatever, to a new location while the service member reports for duty or is away serving. For single service members or dual service members dealing with their move, the challenges may look more like moving on a tight schedule without any wiggle room afforded by having someone who isn't in uniform at home to deal with the moving details. One of the best ways to tackle the chaos of military moves is to be super organized about it using labels, a binder, and home inventory systems, or whatever works for you. Today's guest, Gallagher, found herself looking for a moving kit labeling solution during each of her moves, but couldn't find someone making what she needed. So she made it herself and launched it as a small business called the Stressless PCS Kit. Now, before we get going, I have to tell you one thing about CC. Talk about scrappy. CC is, to me, the ultimate military spouse chameleon, growing and leveraging her experience and career to meet whatever she finds waiting for her. And boy, does she do it well. She has managed a variety of military spouse and family-focused programs at Defense Department contractors, and when I originally met her, was advocating for supportive federal policies as the lead of spouse programming at the Military Officers Association of America, or MOA. And she's also helped lead government relations at the National Military Family Association. Cece knows what she's doing, and when she creates a solution, you better believe it works. And that's why I trust her to bring us her best PCS organization tips today for PCS with Military.com. Cece, welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. And chameleon is a great term to utilize for what my professional and personal background has been up to today.
Well, and we were chatting before we started recording about that very thing. So it's funny that I was already going to say that when I introduced you.
I love it. Thank you for having me, Amy. This is such an honor and pleasure to be here with you today.
So talk to us about how many times you've moved with and without the military.
That's a great question. So we are in the military. We have moved 6 times in 13 years, and we are heading into our 7th move this summer of 2022. And prior to that, growing up and through undergraduate and graduate school, 5 times with my family.
So a lot is a good
A lot. Yeah. Many times.
Coast to coast. And
Yeah.
when I mention military move chaos, I know you've personally experienced this. So what was your most chaotic, stressful move? What happened there?
So that's a great question too. My most chaotic, stressful move, I would say has to do with locations of where we moved from and where we moved to. So it wasn't anything crazy like our household goods were broken or the truck never showed up. It was more of the situation and location where we were going to and having that culture shock. So we were stationed at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, beautiful mountains, trees, grass, all the lovely things. And we received orders to Fort Irwin, California, 6 weeks before we were supposed to show up. So first it was just a shock to the system of that move. And then we had to downsize in the home that we went from to. We were moving to a desert, the Mojave Desert, to a very remote installation, like an island in the desert is what people call it. And it was further from family, where our family is located in Florida. So we were just moving further away. And so I remember on that specific move, after days of traveling in the car, and at the time we had toddlers who drank formula out of bottles. And, oh my gosh, we showed up with dirty clothes in our car and we were just a mess. And the installation issued us one house. There's only one house available, one option. And I remember going into it because I was so shocked about where we were, again, growing up in Florida, but moving to the desert. I just remember looking at my husband and saying, "Do you hate me? Like, why are we moving out here? I just don't understand. I can't wrap my brain around it." And so it was stressful from a very personal, situational standpoint. I mean, everyone was healthy and safe and we made it and it was good. But it was one of those monumental moments as a spouse where I'm like, man, we really sacrifice a lot, right? In this life.
And isn't it just the sum total of stresses that makes
Oh,
something over the top?
that's
It's
it.
never just the one thing. It's the short-term orders and chaos in the car and
Oh,
toddlers,
yeah.
blanket.
Toddlers screaming and crying, and then, yes, desert where there's no living
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
outside of people.
right, and it's all of them boom, piled onto
Yeah,
you at the same time, and
yeah,
now what you have is a very stressful move situation, and you're still doing all of the normal move stuff, like
right.
figuring out where to take your kids to the doctor, and trying to meet new
Mhm.
friends, and unpacking your house, and
Yes.
replacing all of your open dry goods that were in your cabinet, just on and on,
It's
and
just
so
on and on, and not only that, because I know you work as well, but also managing working. I've always worked full time through every move, and I've really had to fight to stay in the workforce, right, through all these moves. So it's also managing the professional side, trying to keep composure there. And then in addition to that, it's schools and daycares and support when you're moving so much further away from that community that you know. So, yes, it's like every single time we all go through this stressful period, but come out stronger and more resilient from having lived through it. But during the time, it's very hard.
yeah, and I think it's that pile of stresses that makes
Yes,
it a important thing to remove the ones you can.
correct. Take control of that.
Take control of the periphery where you can find it. So I'm wondering specifically what organizational mistakes, because organizing and keeping your stuff in hand, if you will, is a really big part of just sort of removing those periphery stressors. So, what organizational mistakes have you made over the years, and what do you see other people consistently making? Because, of course, this is a community event,
It
community
is.
problem.
It takes a village on all sides, even with people you don't know. They become your village. Okay, so organizational mistakes I have made over the years. I've got a few that come to mind. Not starting early enough to prepare for the move, right? So I get in the mental state where it's so overwhelming to think about, I've got to go through the entire house to purge everything. To me, that's overwhelming. So my recommendation and what I tell other people to do is kind of break your house up by room, and then it doesn't feel so large. So if I go through the master bedroom this week or the basement or a garage and just kind of break that up over time, but procrastination is the enemy of getting ready for a move, I would say.
I was just thinking, Megan Harless, one of our other podcast guests, talks about creating an inventory of her entire house, and just that idea really stresses me out.
No, it's and that was my next thing is because our houses are all different. No house is the same. The measurements of the rooms are different. And so I have started, in addition to Megan's advice of creating that inventory on an Excel spreadsheet, I also have started to measure our furniture. Okay, so I will measure furniture and place that in my little sheet or of notes. And then I'll buy painter's tape. So whenever we receive the household goods on the other side, I will literally just outline it based on the measurements so I know and can see if it will fit in that room. So many times we have moved into smaller spaces or the rooms aren't adequate enough for a piece of furniture. And you're like, oh, this is at least I knew before they came in and they're moving our furniture 10 times. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's the same concept with getting curtains that fit various
Oh,
windows,
geez.
although I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the size of those curtains I have in a pile actually are, I just know they aren't the size I have now.
Correct. Yes. Oh my gosh, the amount of curtains that we have gone through. Yes.
Yeah.
But I would say those are my biggest mistakes, waiting too long. So now I start much earlier. And then also I measure the furniture just so when I get to that next space, I can see and just kind of map out what that looks like when the movers come.
Do you also then not keep furniture that you know is not gonna fit in the next space or doesn't have a home in your home?
Oh gosh, right? Yes. And this is one thing that kills me. I feel like military families spend so much money on furniture or storage supplies or whatever that is because the homes are so different. So yeah, we go through that cycle of selling a lot or purchasing a lot to fit the space. So either way, it's just you're losing money on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, in
Mhm.
season 1, we had an episode with Maria Reed, who is a,
Oh,
Army wife who I'm sure you know,
fantastic.
but for those
Yes.
who don't, she does, military home makeovers and organizational around decorating, and her specific recommendation, in fact, it was so important to me that I put it in the title of the episode, "Do not buy a sectional couch," because it is not gonna
Oh,
fit in the place you're going,
I
probably.
love that advice because that happened to us from Colorado Springs to Fort Irwin is that we had to sell it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we spent however much money to buy this sectional couch for this room. And then we had to get rid of it. It's interesting on this move coming up, we're going from Fort Bliss, Texas, where we are now, to Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania. And the homes there, they are small, like a lot smaller than the home on the installation that we live in now at Fort Bliss. And so we're considering getting a pod and storing half of our furniture for a year and just, I don't know, just sucking up the cost because again, you're losing money on every way that you go. So we're exploring ideas about that now. So yeah.
As someone who's really into PCS organizational tools,
No.
I mean,
Yes,
you have your own small business around it. Okay, so I
I
know
do.
you have favorites, but I wanna talk about what or other organizational tools you like, but first tell us about the Stressless PCS.
Okay. Absolutely. So the Stressless PCS kit in its most simplistic form is an all-in-one labeling system to really help create that organized move. And so what the kit contains, so I'll tangibly talk about what that is, that there are 240 color-coded labels with unique icons on the kit labels. There's 8 different room categories. So when you look in your home, you have your bedrooms, your living rooms, your bathrooms, kitchen, dining, storage. I have one in there for Pro Gear because, as you know, our service members have Pro Gear, but spouses who work, they also have Pro Gear as well. And then there's a blank label set for any additional rooms that you may have. I know people have used it for pets or they've toy rooms or whatever additional rooms that they have. In addition to those labels, we've got 12 door hangers. And this was important to me to create because I remember as I was starting this concept, I would tape a piece of computer paper on a door and say like master bedroom or boys bedroom. And so I was like, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to carry tape and just hang something on a door? So door hangers go with it and you place your color coded labels on there and then you instruct everyone where to go to. And then in addition to that, there is an instruction sheet. So it kind of walks you through the entire process of how to utilize the kit. There's also a room chart that allows you to record the number of boxes per room or, what the proposed floor level is that you want those boxes to go to. Um, and then I just have a personal greeting in there with a personal family recipe. I know this sounds so odd, but one of the best things when you get in your home is to cook something that's meaningful, that tastes like home. You've been on the road or in airplanes, wherever you are for so many days. And so I have a personal family favorite recipe in there for you to share, with your family as you get settled in. So that's tangibly what's in the kit when you receive it at your house.
And, what were you responding to? You mentioned the door hangers responding to a
Yeah.
specific need that where you don't wanna take computer paper up, but what other problems of your own were you responding to for making this? Because if I remember correctly, you made this for yourself and then started
I
selling it
did.
as well.
Oh my goodness. Yes, for me and really what inspired to create it is just downsizing in houses from that Colorado to Fort Irwin move. And oh gosh, I had spent so much money on, oh god, like all the different colored duct tape rolls, the labels, the shapes and sizes, packages of ink for my printer to print everything in, Sharpie markers. I mean, you name it. You could go to Office Depot and spend $1 million just on moving supplies, Ziploc bags, everything. But none of them created the solution that this kit provided me. So, yeah, so I was like, that's it. I'm going to hire a graphic designer. We're going to test this kit out. I'm going to spend some money because I know that it will just make me happy inside to feel a little bit more in control of our move. And so I did that. And what was funny is as I received the proof kit of what it is now, in one of the earlier iterations of it, a neighbor of mine, they were PCSing to South Korea. So at this time, we were leaving from Irwin to come here to Fort Bliss. And she's like, hey, can you print me off a kit? Like, I love this idea. We have long term storage, we have Oconus moving. Their move looked very different from ours. And that was also part of the process of creating this, is to make sure that we're taking care of our families who are moving overseas. And so I printed her off a kit, and then it just kind of caught on with other friends in the neighborhood. And I was like, okay, maybe I can help other military families with their move by providing this. And I would say the interaction with this product was very positive. I think right now we've sold over 500 kits to families around the globe. I am able to ship kits. I think this week it was like to Alaska and Virginia, one to Japan. I mean, it's very overwhelmingly welcome in different areas. And when spouses find out about it, I love the personal notes that I get. That's our family, right? Like everyone is so similar and kind of going through this difficult, tragic, not tragic, but difficult, traumatic experience of,
Might be tragic.
maybe tragic. Yeah. In some cases, maybe sometimes they feel tragic.
Just a quick break here to tell you about all the incredible PCS and military life resources on Military.com. Did you know Military.com's team of news reporters and experts put together the news and information you need to make your military life the best it can be? And you can get all of it delivered straight to your inbox by signing up for one of our newsletters at Military.com. And the Military.com news app, available for iPhone and Android, will keep you on top of breaking news as it happens. What are you waiting for? Check those resources out today. Now, back to our show. What are some of your other organizational tools that you like other than the kit that you created for yourself? You mentioned an Excel spreadsheet earlier. I know it's
Yeah,
keep it simple, stupid, but I'm not going to call an Excel spreadsheet my favorite tool. It's just a
correct.
tool.
It's a
One of-
tool. It's not a favorite tool. I just purchased for this move. There's another military spouse owned company called List and File, but it's a binder specifically for moving that organizes all the kids for us, like our kids' documents, like our household good documents. And so I was like, I would love to give this a try. And I've already started to use it to prepare. So I'm hopeful that will be great. But one tool that I would love to share with you, it's not necessarily PCS related, but it is like sanity saving for me. So there are these health and wellness coaches at Military One Source. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I share this resource with so many spouses because it has helped me with every PCS move, every new child in our house who joins our family or whatever that looks like. But it's just to make sure that I'm integrating self care into this entire process and kind of leading up to a move, but then also starting that new process of self care after we arrive somewhere because you're still trying to discover where is the gym or can I exercise or how do I eat better after eating fast food for how many days. And so it's important to take care of you too. And I just want to throw that out to spouses out there. Yeah.
Those are different than the non-medical counseling. That's a different program.
different program, but vitally important in other ways, right? Like we someone who can hold you accountable and provide recommendations on, how to make sure we're concentrating on your health and wellness. So
Right, absolutely, and the reason I mention it's different than the non-medical counseling is because there's some rules around the non-medical counseling in terms of, sessions per issue and that kind of thing, but the life and health and wellness coach is a different program, and it is also very valuable. In fact, as you're talking, I remember JC Eckhart, who some of our listeners may know as a, veteran transition coach right now with Military.com, but has had a long career in military spouse, stuff as well, told me once that she actually used one of the life coaches within the Military One Source program and was just bowled over by how valuable it was, and then found out what the cost of that would be if she used that outside of the military spouse program. And it's just like, why is no one else using this resource? And the funny thing is, as you're talking, it had never even occurred to me to call one of these coaches on in the subject of or in the realm
Moving.
of PCS. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I that's why I'm sharing it because it's so valuable. But yes, I have worked with the same health and wellness coach, I think 6 times, like every single move that we've made. And we have 2 young kids and, going back to maternity leave and PCSing. And so it's just a great military one source is incredible in and of itself. But I love and advocate for a health and wellness coach, right? Anything to fill our cup up because we are always putting ourselves last. So do your best to put yourself first.
Yeah, the other thing about it is when I ask about resources, I'm thinking about apps specifically or
Right.
kits or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But what you're suggesting is a resource is asking a human for help, which
Oh, yes. That is
which
a
is like
resource. Yes.
yeah, it shouldn't be that should not be mind-blowing, but every time I have stopped to think, "Okay, maybe I know this is crazy, maybe I don't know everything, and I should just reach out and see if there's something I haven't thought of in
Yeah.
whatever realm it is." I never regret doing that, and
Never.
the resources are there for us, whether it be through Military One Source, Life Coach, or I reached out to a career and education advisor with the
Oh,
USO, and I
amazing,
was
I'm sure.
bowled over by she suggested some programs that I didn't end up using, but I was certainly keeping in my back pocket in terms of continuing education that I
Yeah.
knew about, but I didn't know applied to me for
I
some reason,
love
and
that.
it was a great reminder that no matter how immersed you are in this life, you are always going
Always.
to not think of everything.
Correct. And you're always going to rely on other people to give you their best. I love this question, right? Like it's just so good because we all come from different frames of
Yeah.
reference and have like our own tools that we utilize. So that's a great
Yeah.
question. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that, we've talked about specific to military moves and you mentioned Military One Source. Is there any other tools that you use that are not maybe even created for moving or hacks
Oh,
that you really enjoy?
as far as created for moving,
Or not created for moving, just sort of in the world. I hate to go back to Excel, but it's the beast we can't get away from.
I know Excel spreadsheets are great. The photo app, like the camera on your phone, taking pictures of everything before you move. Let me preface with that. I know sometimes we get the stuff after we move and we're taking pictures of maybe what the damage is or what that looks like. But along with that inventory, it's best to take pictures or even like a video of a room because once your stuff goes in that sea of brown boxes, it's like everything comes out of your mind. You have no idea what is in there because it doesn't look obviously the same as when it came out of your house. So I do like videos, I'll take snapshots, and then I have the inventory in the Excel spreadsheet. But you know what? I think those are kind of
Yeah.
my
No reinventing
standards.
the wheel. You mentioned the sea of brown boxes. I always have this feeling while my house is being packed of just sheer panic. No matter no matter
Sheer
how
panic.
organized I am, I
Yes.
sit there and I don't know what to do with my hands. So so I feel like I should be watching everyone at the same time. I feel like I should be monitoring 5 packers at the same moment to make sure my shoes
Yeah.
are on top of my wedding dress, or when the stuff comes off the truck, I should be checking off boxes, but also inside making sure that they're going in the right spot. And the
Yeah.
truth is you can't be everywhere at once, and it's all very overwhelming.
Yes, and you know what's interesting? A lot of that's I love that you said that. It's like you're an air traffic controller, but like in your home with all these moving parts and pieces. Several spouses have asked me like, how do you use this kit when there are 4 or 5 people packing your house out? Like, how are you supposed to be in 5 places at once? And so what I told her, I said, what I ask the people to do is start in one area of the home. So even if you have like a big garage, right, and they need to pack all the garage items, I ask them all to start there. And so I'll take notes and I kind of just hang with them because they know that I'm invested in making sure that they do the best job, but I'm also there to support them. So that's my advice, especially if you're considering using the kit, is just work and communicate with those packers. They are your friends
Mm,
that day, right? They are there to do a job, but you need them on your side. I always feel that way to build a relationship. They're touching your most precious items. And I don't know, and then just help guide them, give them instruction and set the pace, right? Set the pace and set the standard of how you want them to label your boxes, and just say, I'm going to utilize these labels. And in addition to all the great work that you're doing, I'm just, just a
Right.
force multiplier for our family. So,
Right, because it's easy to come into that stressful situation with an attitude of defensiveness.
oh, always. Yeah, I hear you.
And
Hmm.
it's because there's so much to be defensive about. I mean,
I
it's a
know.
very
Right.
logical response,
Right.
especially when you hear of all of the trouble that people have had and all these stories about loss and breakage and that kind of thing. But the truth of the matter is that it's probably better to assume that everyone is doing their best in that moment instead of defaulting to the other assumption, which is we're all out to get everybody, because that's the opposite. And enter into this with best foot forward as a partnership and not to minimize what someone else is doing and was hired to do and is there to do, but come alongside and be like, your system's good. I have a system. It's not replacing yours. It's in concert with.
That's right. I am enhancing what's going to help me feel in control and just kind of more organized on the back end of receiving your household goods. But yeah, partnership and just create a good welcoming environment. So,
Yeah. And the other thing I think that people forget is that the people who are loading your stuff, the agents, are not who's going to be on the other end.
oh no, right.
And so that's the last time they're gonna see these things, and while the system might make sense to them in the room, it's not gonna make sense to somebody 4 months down the road who's never met them or heard about their
Correct. And that is such a good point. So it's imperative on the front end. And then when you receive your household goods, typically what I do is I will walk the whole team. So the packers, the unpack, the people who are going to unpack your items, I walk them through the house and I will tell them about the different colors, color coded, what the room names are. And it was really fascinating when we PCSed here to Fort Bliss and the system was actually working in process. I literally stood on the front step of our house and they'd come off the truck with a dolly and you'd be able to see these large color coded labels on the brown box. So you have brown boxes that look like Tetris coming off of these massive trucks. And it would took me maybe like twice of walking through the house and showing them, and then it was automatic. So like all those moments where I was chasing my young kids who were not in daycare yet or school, I felt confident that these movers, they knew, they had the process, they had a game plan down. And I tell you what, coming into the home, it took way less time, right? They could actually set a bed up before it got dark outside. And I wasn't freaking out about the crib or, whatever that was. So it's so efficient. I just hope that people use it or some sort of system that helps them.
because again, that setting up of the crib or that setting up the bed before
Oh,
it gets dark, that's the example of the last straw we were talking about earlier.
the
It's the
last straw. Yes.
piling on. Everything was fine until the toddler could not go to bed because the
Right.
bed was still in pieces.
Was not made. And I don't know how to put the toddler bed together. And the pack and play is at I don't know, the hotel. Who knows? Pack and play could have fallen out of the trunk on the, on the way.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the last straw.
It's the last
Mhm.
straw, and it's example of those incremental stresses that we are trying so desperately to
To avoid.
avoid.
So true. Hmm.
Do you have 3 or 4 specific tips for people who are trying to stay organized around a PCS? We've talked about a couple of things in passing, but maybe you can just sort of tie up everything in a bow for us, just practical steps like, "Hey, you're thinking about this, you're in the thick of it. Here's what
Yeah.
to do. Here's what to think about."
I would say I've got 4 key words that I utilize my thoughts prior to a move, which are toss, donate, sell, or keep.
Mm.
And I literally live by those those words, especially as I'm prepping to leave, because so often we'll say, "Oh, I'll get it on the back end of the move," or I don't want to approach this room yet. But those 4 words will change your life: toss, donate, sell, or keep. I would also say Amazon Prime has been a good friend of ours because I will send items ahead of time, even if it's to a hotel or to like a friend's house if we have someone on the other side. So Amazon Prime items that you are just like, I don't have room to pack, or I don't know, they get thrown out along the way. And even sending a box at a time, whether it's Amazon or not, maybe it's like necessary clothes or jackets or things that you just don't think about or don't have room to pack with you. I'm sure someone would be happy to receive a box for your family as you make your way across the globe to kind of get you that jumpstart when you go there. And then really the last thing I would say is try to make a vacation or a fun experience out of it, right? Like we often lose our patience and we often lose our sanity, I feel like, as we're going through this. So if there's a way that you could integrate a fun event for the family, an experience, just do your best and take the extra step to try to do that and really appreciate that family time as much as you can.
Not to go back to the boxes, but out of the box thinking, if you will. It never even occurred to me what you just said to mail stuff ahead of time. I think about putting things in the car that we'll need when we get there, not sending it in advance. But why wouldn't I do that? Man, I would have saved myself a lot of cold days in between when we packed up in Tennessee and arrived, or had our stuff arrive rather, in Alaska, by shipping ahead a box of just even sweatshirts and long pants for the climate here in June, which was not at all the climate in pretty much
Alaska.
everywhere. Yeah, not
Yeah.
at all the climate where we had come from or even driven through on the way here. And instead, I get here and I have non-adequate clothing, and that's
Clothing. Yeah, it's so true. Oh my goodness, it's so true. Yeah, I'll try to send stuff, I'll Amazon it, or I'll pack a box and tell our kids to pick, like, we take stuffed animals with us. We're just in that phase of life of young kids. But if there's something that they want to open up, maybe there's a toy, or maybe there's jackets or sweats or whatever that is to acclimate to the weather, an umbrella, who knows? Stuff that I don't have room for in the car with everything else that's coming with us.
No, and if you're driving out cross country, who wants to be taking that in and out of the car to find the thing you do need? Because there just isn't room to have stuff packed in an order of need, and inevitably, if you do that, something's gonna get put in the wrong spot anyway. But the thing I wanna come back to on that is this idea that of what we've been talking about the whole time, where you have the stress piling up. Because in my experience, when you have that stress piling up, what you don't have is the opportunity to think of things like what you're talking about. So when you remove the stress of one thing or another, whether that's through keeping a great inventory or through labeling your stuff, now you have the mental space to think about, oh, maybe I should send some stuff ahead of time. Oh, hey, remember Military One Source? They have life coaches. Maybe I should talk to one of those. It's just like you just only have so much brain power for dealing with stressful things.
Correct. And that is why procrastination is not your friend when you move. That is exactly why, because you want the space and you want to be able to breathe into something that is going to be extremely hard for everyone in the family. Hard, but exciting, right? It's an adventure. And that's what we always try to phrase it as with our kids and with us, but not procrastinating will give you that open space and that freedom in your mind to be like, oh, I need to pack this in the car, or this is our first night bag, or, oh, let me bring some laundry pods and dryer sheets in case there's a laundry machine at a facility we stay at. And give yourself that space. The other thing, as I'm thinking about other tools, I'm a list maker, like list maker to the T. And so I will write out packing lists for each of the cars, again, like what needs to go ahead. And so don't be scared to write something down, because that also frees up space in your mind too.
Absolutely. Well, Cece,
Mhm.
these are fantastic tips. I really appreciate you giving them to us. Where can people find your Stressless PCS kit?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having me. They can find it at our website, www.stresslesspcskit.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram if you want to see some fun photos of labels and packing and notes and all the wonderful things that is involved in our military community and moving. So,
Awesome. Well, we'll have those links in the show notes as well. And again, Cece, thank you so much for joining us.
yay. Thanks, Amy, for having me. Best of luck to everyone this upcoming PCS season.
Thanks so much for listening to PCS with Military.com. Want more PCS advice? Check out the rest of PCS with Military.com wherever you get your podcasts. Or visit our PCS Resource Center at Military.com/PCS. And until next time, happy moving.